Who is Daft Pina? Daft is just another commentary drama channel that you have seen thousands of times before, but there's one difference between him and all the others. He mostly talks about drama regarding animators or artists. Yes, a few drama channels do focus on one topic, like politics or media.
Hillary Clinton.
But Daft is the only one that I know who primarily goes over animators. At first, this may seem like a bad idea. Animators do have drama, and they do bad things just like everyone else. But animators, and more importantly, storytime animators are big. Here's the thing, no matter how big you are, you're going to have some haters no matter who you are. My guess is Daft Pina looked at the storytime animators and thought,
"Whoa! Hey, there's no one talking about them in a negative light."
Then he decided to be the one to fill up that niche. This word. To be perfectly honest, it's a pretty good strategy to grow yourself on YouTube. That being said, storytime animators are kid-friendly for the most part, so Daft had to manufacture some of the controversies himself. One of his excuses is pretty common amongst commentary YouTubers.
"Whoa! I'm doing this to improve their content. I'm not just blindly hating on them."
This is a statement that is quite hard to defend when you think about Daft telling Chili Panda to quit YouTube and quit art altogether.
If that's all she can do to improve, I think Chili Panda should stop drawing.
Oh, come on, that was uncalled for.
But how can one improve if they quit? For the longest time, I was cool with Daft, and he was someone who I would call a friend. But friendships do break down over time, especially if they are over the internet. Yes, I knew about his infamous Jaiden video, but he was just starting out on YouTube at the time, and I was willing to look past it. To be fair, Daft did seem to change. His content gradually improved, and he was a lot more respectful towards creators. And his content was, dare I say it, quite informative. Around the time he made his second, or maybe it was third, video on The Odd Ones Out, I noticed he was going back to the person he used to be. However, I was willing to look past even this, because it was probably just a terribly executed video. I've made those myself plenty of times. He did receive a lot of backlash, so I assumed he would eventually take the criticism he was receiving, and he would apologize to James, similarly to how he apologized to Jaiden. But then he made another video on The Odd Ones Out, which I heard was even worse. But I personally thought it was better, until he started to nitpick James's comment, constantly complaining about it instead of apologizing. This will be a common trend with Daft, and I'll go over what that is throughout this video. But I was willing to look past even this, due to me dealing with my own drama at the time. But then he did a video on Antunes, and a theory on art. That was when I could no longer hold my tongue. My problem isn't Daft criticizing people, pointing out their flaws, or calling others out for perceived sexism or racism. My problem is that he will twist words, lie about what's been said, and take a cartoonishly uncharitable interpretation with people. Saying that Daft is giving the least charitable interpretation would be too charitable of an interpretation to give him. I have already done 2 videos on Daft previously. One focusing on what he said about Jaiden and James. The other was focusing on what he did to a theory on in Antunes. A few Daft Pina apologists commented about how Daft's Jaiden video was made years ago. Now, I already covered this in the video, but I guess they just didn't take the time to watch it. The main reason why I made that video on him about what he said to Jaiden was originally made because he got onto James's case for something he also did years ago to Dangle. So, Daft can criticize someone for what they did 6 years ago, but I can't criticize him for doing something even worse less years ago. But overall, my first video on Daft was received quite well. The second one was decently well liked, but not as much as the first one. Daft, in a way, responded to my criticism. And it was just as childish as I expected it to be. But we'll be getting to that later. He didn't stop his bad behavior. In fact, he may have gotten even worse. A few more people did videos on Daft after my 2 videos on him came out. So come along with me, and we'll dive into who Daft Pina is as a person, and why he is a threat to the animation community on the internet.
I think I forgot something.
I would like to start off by thanking Bandit of the East. I highly recommend you check out his video on Daft when you get the chance. So now that we have established who Daft Pina is, let's go over the patterns I've noticed with his content. Daft Pina will do whatever he can to make the person he's talking about seem like the worst person ever. In his video, JaidenAnimations lied about her face reveal. He claimed that Jaiden didn't mention the name of Alex Clark, so he would get even more hate.
Well, in the video, she never mentions who that person was. Now, why do you think that? Maybe it's because she still wants to work with that person in the video. Or just by not saying their name, that person would get bullied even more after this video is released.
Even though it should be common sense that not mentioning someone by name will get them less hate because less people will know who the person is. Or when he complained about Jaiden putting her YouTube play button on the floor, a common thing many YouTubers do so they can show off an item they have to their audience.
She even talks about how she got a special yearbook for having 1 million subs, and she even shows off her YouTube achievements, such as the plaques she has on the ground. You know, the thing that some people dedicate their lives to get, and she just has them lying on the floor.
This is how Daft described this action that many YouTubers do.
Oh my god, she put it on the ground. That's such a hard thing for people to collect, and she just puts it on the ground like it's a piece of trash.
There are plenty of more examples I could give from his Jaiden video, but I already covered it in full, so if you want more information, go check that video out. But he made that video years ago, he took it down, and he apologized for it.
Who the fuck hurt you?
So I was willing to look past this mistake. I have made many videos in my past that I'm not too proud of, and I don't think it's right to hold someone's past actions against themselves, unless it's like a fucking crime or some shit. And he did seem to change as a person for the next couple of years, but then he went back to the person he used to be. In his video on The Odd Ones Out, he pointed out that James made a BLM post, but did not mention that he decided not to make a comic that was a wordplay off of Black Lives Matter.
Ended from the bear one. But just mentioning BLM, I don't know if I'd get in trouble for that or not. So I'm not gonna make that comic idea, but it's okay because I still gotta say it in this video.
Wait, didn't James make a BLM post in 2020? I don't remember him mentioning this video.
Yeah, this is the strangest argument I've ever heard from anyone ever. Like, what is this point even supposed to convey? I even asked Daft if he could explain what the problem was, and he, didn't. Daft's co-host said that James' biggest wish was to voice a black guy, even though they seemingly have no evidence for this claim. Daft also theorized that James and Something Else YT had a falling out. Why? Well, it's because James didn't talk to him publicly, and Something Else YT made a tweet about wanting to hang out with friends. He also said that Something Else YT didn't promote James's game, even though he did, but this could just be a mistake on his part, but we'll get to that later. Now, of course, there are plenty of more examples I could go over, but I already covered his video on The Odd Ones Out, so if you want more information, check that video out, it will be linked down below. You'll notice that a lot of these points are complete nothing burgers. Even if Jaiden did put her YouTube play button on the ground with the most malicious of intent, so it's hers and it's just a $5 play button. Even if James wish to voice a black guy, so he animated it himself. Even if Something Else YT and James had a falling out in their friendship, so friends fall out all the time. And there are plenty of more examples I could go over, but I think you guys get what I'm saying here. Daft will do everything in his power to make the people he's talking about seem like bad people, even when they're doing some of the most mundane things in the world. And both Jaiden and James are some of the most politically correct and pure YouTubers that I know about. So maybe because Daft Pina was talking about kid-friendly and PC channels, he had to stretch his points as far as he possibly could to find any problem with them, which is still not a good thing to do. But maybe if he talks about actual edgy people, he could find a problem with what they do, right? Well, sometimes maybe, sure, but he still has to stretch what they say to make it into a problem when it really isn't. Like in his video on Arthurion art, he claimed that Arthurion said that he wouldn't be caught dead supporting the LGBT community and to not fall for all that colorful emotional bullshit. But in the very tweet that Daft Pina put up on screen, Arthurion stated that he wouldn't support the LGBT community because he can barely support himself. Now, could I understand why some people might have a problem with this? Sure, but Daft still twisted what Arthurion said, and that's what I have a problem with. There's also his video on Antunes, where Antunes said, "How can you have your period? I thought you were trans." But guess how Daft actually responds to this? He doesn't tell Antunes it's none of his business, or call Antunes transphobic for it. No, he says that Antunes was questioning the genitals of a minor. Now, I guess you could say that PuppyChan was a minor. They were 17 at the time, and technically Antunes was questioning their genitals, but Daft knew what he was doing when he worded it like this. Even if you don't like Antunes, you should still know that this is a pretty shitty thing to do. And because of this, a lot of the people who made videos on Antunes said he was a creepy child predator. Even if we give Daft the most charitable interpretation possible and say that this was just poor wording on Daft's part and he didn't intend for any of this to happen, the fact that he has done nothing to clear up this misinformation makes him just as guilty if he intended this to happen or if he didn't. Now, I did already cover Daft Pina's video on Antunes and his video on Arthurion art in the second video I did on Daft Pina, so if you want more information, you should totally go check those two out. But all the videos I have talked about from Daft Pina so far are all at the very least over a year old, so maybe he's changed. And I'm basically just regurgitating the information I've said in older videos, so I bet you guys want something new. So we're gonna go over what Daft Pina said about young Dawn. This was something that Bandit of the East didn't go over himself, likely because he already finished his video on Daft, considering his video only came out one day after Daft's video on Young Dawn. Now, the first point I would like to go over wasn't said by Daft, but instead was said by Joey. But considering this is Daft's video, and he likely wrote the script himself, and he also edited the video, so if he didn't agree with this point, he could have edited it out himself. And on top of all of that, Daft will later make some points himself that are very similar to this one, so I'm gonna put all the blame on Daft for this point.
Now he works out 2 to 3 times a day. Not sure how he's gonna keep up with the newborn baby. He doesn't have the healthiest mindset, but...
Are you implying that he'll be a neglectful father to his child because he works out a lot? He does YouTube full time. He can set his own schedule, and he doesn't have to drive to work. So I think he has enough time to work out, do YouTube, and take care of his kid. I'm not a father myself, so maybe it's not my place to make this point, but the fact that you would even imply that this dude would be a neglectful father to his child just because he works out a lot is absolutely disgusting.
But Donald hates therapy and believes that trauma does not exist. Not only will he never go to therapy ever again, he went like twice and says it didn't work. He also says he doesn't believe in it, which is a totally not scary thing if his wife ever suggests to go to couples counseling because of potential future issues.
Daft, that's couples counseling, not individual therapy. They're very similar, but they're slightly different. And why are you saying it's a scary thing? Are you saying it's scary because they might break up? Nah, that doesn't sound scary to me. What I think you're implying is that he'll either be emotionally or physically abusive to his wife. But maybe Daft is really just talking about them divorcing from one another. I'm not a husband, but I have had a few girlfriends, and them leaving me is certainly a scary thought to me as an individual. But I don't see how it would be scary to some random guy on the internet, but let's keep watching.
Since divorces exist for a reason, and Sometimes they're actually good. But I hope the two have a happy marriage, because I know Donald won't sign the paper to separate, let alone go to therapy as mentioned before.
Okay, this time Daft isn't implying something. He says he knows Don won't sign the papers. How do you know that, Daft? Oh, it's because he made a tweet saying he doesn't believe in divorce. Get fucked.
About in the corner. Speaking of a bad transition, Donald wants 5 kids and 20 grandkids minimum, so I hope his wife is taking notes, because this doesn't seem like an option.
Okay, Daft, what are you implying? Best case scenario, you're implying that if his wife doesn't want a lot of kids, he'll divorce her. Worst case scenario is you're implying that he'll force himself upon his wife, force her to keep the kid, and then do it a few more times. This is one of the reasons why Daft is so hard to argue against. It's because his points are so incredibly vague. But when you consider his point against Antunes, where he said he was questioning the genitals of a minor, then I think it's pretty clear what Daft is trying to lead his audience into believing. But I guess it's not like Daft is trying to get Don's wife to break up with him or something.
In fact, if I was his wife and was able to see some of these videos, like a crystal ball kind of thing, I'd run.
Dude, seriously? What the fuck is wrong with you? So, now that I have established how Daft Pina likes to criticize other people, how does he handle criticism himself? So the first really big video that called out Daft Pina was made by Quinn Curio. Well, they weren't that big at the time. In fact, they were just starting out. But that video blew up, getting well over 1 million views. Now, some of you might think that Daft took the criticism of that video very well, and later he even worked with her. Well, we'll get back to that, but yes, he did do that later on, but he didn't do that at first. Sure, if you check today, you would not find this comment because it was deleted, but thanks to BanditOf TheEast, I was able to see what Daft had originally said under that video.
Hey Curio, just finished watching this video. I was excited to watch it since I've seen a few videos about the animation critic community and wanted to see how I could be better, but I was disappointed. Personal thoughts. You mentioned in the video that some of the info is copied from one another, and that is true. I like to write new videos with my friend Pufferfish, and sometimes we have to end up sitting through the entire library of that person to even make a video, haha. But some of the other reviewers take the information I have already presented and use it in their video. But on 2 occasions, I did overlook the script by LS Mark and Turkey Tom, so I did give thoughts on how to change their script. If you fully watch the videos they made on the topic, at the end they credit me for helping. I didn't help Amigo Shits, James, 252, or Foster with the work at all. Another thing is mentioning that some critics don't show the full clips, and you didn't either. A few times in this video, in my speech review at 12:23, you mentioned a nice track where I say I'm not an expert, but I do give subjective commentary. You don't need my approval to be a good artist. But you didn't show many clips of us at all, and spoke mostly of generality. I like to put the clips of the person I'm reviewing throughout the video to better show the person. And despite subjective things, I think they do badly. I also show what I like about their content.
This is something Daft does whenever he gets criticism. He nitpicks things, goes over all the good things he did, and says people are making him look bad. I know one comment from years ago doesn't prove who someone is today. Yes, after this video came out, Daft did get a lot better, and even reached out to a lot of the people he wronged in the past to make amends, but he hasn't changed as a person. So let's move on to how he would do the same thing to the odd ones out years later. I already went over Daft's video on James in my first video on him, and I said in that video that James left a giant ass comment debunking a lot of Daft's points. So did Daft apologize? No, he didn't. Instead, in his next video on James, Cafe Chaos Shameful Reskin, featuring Thuman, towards the end, he nitpicked James's comment and didn't even go over anything he got wrong. He even cropped the comment so people wouldn't see everything James had to say.
Requirements for a consistent team for his company are for his YouTube videos, and his new one reaching over 15 people working on it at a time. And on the notes of multiple people working on an idea together, in my last video I talked about how he took down his map, possibly because he unfriended one of the animators. He retorted that he actually took it down because the word map doesn't also just mean multi-animator project, something completely awful. So in deleting it, his hands were tied, and sorry animators who worked on it, but better luck next time. Here's another way of looking at it. YouTube animator Something Else YT also had the same issue, yet quite literally just re-uploaded the video, leaving a comment on why he did so. To be frank with the audience and honest about why something happened, allows the hardworking animators' work to be shown and appreciated to a wider audience. So when I see certain comparisons to what James is doing, I do wonder about the choices he makes, especially if it's board game.
Okay, that still doesn't debunk his point. You could have still reached out to James or one of the other people who worked on the video. And let's not forget, you cut off the comment at the bottom of the re-upload you showed that explained why he took down the video so you could lie about it.
The reason why James took the video down was because of the thumbnail, which has the text on it, embarrassed, map, and there's a little girl in front of him. Now, Daft, use that tiny brain of yours. I'm joking, it's not tiny, you're smart, but you're going to play ignorance if I don't explain this. What does the word map mean now on the internet? That's right, it stands for minor attracted person, not multiple animator project. And I think that little girl in front of him is also his niece, which just makes everything so much worse. And Daft, I know you did the research for this and saw the thumbnail, but you're pretending not to because you're a disingenuous liar. In fact, what makes him look really disingenuous is the screenshot of the re-upload he shows a cutoff comment right at the very bottom. I decided to read that comment and this is what it says. Yep, this is where I started doing my research, but Daft, using his big brain, decided to cut it out.
Could James just have changed the title and thumbnail or just re-uploaded it? Yes! But it's still why he took it down. Also, you still don't have hard proof that he unfriended one of the animators. You just pulled that out of your ass. You called James a hypocrite and a liar, but then you turn around and lie to your fans, which also makes you a hypocrite as well. You only went over 6 of his points, almost all of which just had to do with his games. I think my favorite point Daft made in this video is this.
Daft focuses on James's comment asking him to delete hidden hypocrisy, making it look like James is trying to hide the evidence of his past actions.
And although he left a public comment on my video, he also tried convincing me to delete it. This is keeping in mind, shortly after my video released, he deleted his entire Tumblr page that he started a long time ago, thus causing the links that once worked on the former friend's posts not work anymore. So if not for this video and the last one, would you have known these things happened?
Hey, whatever happened with the former friend after you made the video?
Oh, she threatened to sue me after a lot of people were attacking her for being racist.
Oh my.
Hey, out of curiosity, want to see one more sentence of context after this statement? There, it mentions that Daft ignored Dangle's wish to not have her story in a sponsored video, something which she stated in both her Tumblr post and directly to DaftPina. Now, because of the bad response he was getting for going against her wishes, Daft finally chose to delete the portion of his video that had Dangle's post in it, which basically did the thing that James asked. However, Daft still fails to acknowledge the fact that the comment he was citing was focused on a portion that is now removed, which from the perspective of someone who watches Hidden Hypocrisy now, seems like James just trying to remove negative comments about him.
Now, I'm going to use this clip again later on in this video, so please don't say, why didn't you go over this point? Chill, I will, but it's for a different part of this video. For now, I just want to point out that Daft made it seem like James wanted him to delete the video, to hide from his past actions. But even Dangle, the black girl who made the post on James, didn't want her post to be used in the video. How do I know this? Well, Daft took out the part of James's comment where he told Daft she didn't want her post in a sponsored video. She stated this both in her Tumblr post and to Daft in private as well. But he tried to get around this by having a black girl read out her Tumblr post. Daft also calls her racist, which, don't get me wrong, she is, but I think he just does it to make her look like someone who's worse than him. This is a very common trend with Daft. He loves to make others look worse so he can look better. But because of all the backlash he was getting, he decided to edit out most of her Tumblr post from his video. So basically, he did what James wanted him to do, but he framed it in a way to make James look bad. If people went back to watch his old video on The Odd Ones Out, now that it has been edited, it really does look like James wants Daft to take down the video for nothing. This just shows how slimy Daft is as a person. He did what someone wanted him to do, but he edited things to change their point to make them look like the bad guy and him look like the good guy. Also, I have a quick question for Thuman. After Prismate Luke, Creepshowart, Kai, Omnia, and now Daft, I just have to ask, you got any other friends I should know about? Because you are friends with a lot of interesting people, and I feel like I could just make a living talking about your YouTube friends at this point.
That what he's doing is an issue, and that he can do better going forward.
Oh, and you telling people to do better isn't an argument. So now we move on to how Daft responded to my own criticism I had for him in my 2 videos, one of which got over 200k views, and the other has over 100k. Sure, they weren't as big back then as they are now, but at least one had over 100k views.
Also have noticed that when you have a fan base, people are more likely to defend you, and thus you won't have to respond to every little thing that happens. This has happened to me countless times. This has happened to Daft recently with a video of somebody defending him.
In that case, these groups would be arguing with themselves and not the creator involved, especially when the detractors admit to not really researching their hit piece videos, or even when proven incorrect are unable to admit that they did anything wrong. I don't agree with a lot of their points, and a lot of it isn't really true or taken out of context. Remember, they are trying to hold someone else accountable.
Tying back to Jelly Bean, it might just be important for the supporters to handle that, because the drama channels will pick apart everything you say.
Oh boy, there's so much irony in this statement, it's hard to know where to even start. First of all, you say I admitted to not really researching my hit piece, as you so eloquently called it. But here's the thing, I only got like 2 things wrong for about an hour and a half of content. I got a question for you. Do you think someone didn't really do research for a test because they got 2 problems wrong? Like, how much did Daft get wrong in the 4 videos of his I covered compared to the 2 videos I made on him? When you think about it for more than 5 seconds, it's not even close, but at least I admitted to my mistakes. I never admitted to not really doing my research. Stop putting words into my mouth and others' mouths. Daft does this a lot. He loves to twist what people say just a little to make them look worse and himself look better. I said in my comment that you placed on screen that not all of my info was good, not that I didn't really do my research. You go on to say that me and Advil were proven wrong, and we are unable to admit we did anything wrong. When it comes to me, that's complete bullshit, because in my comment that you showed, by the way, I admitted to the 2 things I got wrong. As for Advil not admitting to getting anything wrong, that's also bullshit. You read out his pinned comment where he said,
I don't agree with a lot of their points, and a lot of it isn't really true or taken out of context.
To make it look like he didn't admit to doing anything wrong. But you didn't even read out the next part. In the comment, you showed on screen yourself, hoping your fans didn't read it. He goes on to say,
but what I do think they did right was point out how I'm not great at explaining myself clearly. In a fair amount of points in this video, I don't articulate or explain my reasoning well enough, or explain that certain parts are my opinion or interpretation, and that's my bad. I'm still learning, so in the future, I'll try to do better in explaining things as clear as I can. Thank you, Neko, for pointing this out, and I'll see you guys in the next vid.
I don't know about you, Daft, but I think that's admitting to getting things wrong, at least in my book. He even linked her video so people could see what she had to say. Him saying that a lot of it isn't true or taken out of context isn't him not admitting to getting anything wrong. This is Neko we are talking about. They have gotten things wrong before, and they are really hated by a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people. I am so sick of you lying. This needs to stop, Daft. This, along with your video on Young Dawn, is what pushed me into making a part 3 on you. Next, you say, remember, they are trying to hold someone else accountable. Yes, we are, cause someone has to. Because Daft won't hold himself accountable. And are you implying that we didn't hold ourselves accountable? Because, guess what? We did. Now, some of you may be thinking, Jar, this person isn't Daft, so why are you talking to him as if he is? Daft most likely made the script this guy is reading off of, and even if he didn't, this is Daft's video, so he more than likely agreed with what this guy had to say. So this is one of the many people who work with Daft, and as you can see, he's willing to lie on his behalf. But what are the other people who work with him like? Daft Pina has a few people who work with him, or accomplices, as I like to call them. They enable Daft's dishonest behavior, and some of them even used to be his detractors. This is something Daft does. He approaches someone who doesn't like him and gets them to work with him. In my last video on Daft Pina, I talked about him doing this to a guy named Sony TM. Now, he didn't have a lot of proof for some of his points, so a lot of people asked me as to why I even used his video. Sure, he could have been full of shit, but when you compare his video to a lot of the other points I'm about to bring up, I will show you why I took him at his word. Let's start with the first person to ever call out Daft Pina, Quinn Curio. Quinn's video was amazing, even though it was her first video. She called out Daft along with a whole bunch of other storytime critics. I even show up in one part. Cool. But she helped with the script for Daft's video on James, the Cafe Chaos reskin one. How do I know this? Because Daft credited her at the end. Daft's previous video on James was almost as bad as the one he did on JaidenAnimations. He goes on to lie more about James, and Quinn just gives him the green light. Why? Sure, she doesn't have to call out Daft a second time, but she doesn't have to support him either. I could say a ton more things about Quinn Curio, but I don't want to steal Bandit of TheEast thunder, so please go check his video out, as he already went over Quinn extensively. Daft goes back to the person he used to be, and not only does she not call him out, she helps him. Wow. There's also Just Stop. Now, I want to make it clear, I love Just Stop. I see him as a friend. I think his videos are amazing, and he will go down as a great YouTuber. He even saved my ass once, so I do owe him one. That being said, he did a video on Antunes, and it might have the worst point he has ever made in a video ever.
From what I learned with color theory, Anton portrays Daft with a black jacket while he wears a lighter one to signify which character you want to root for, and for a small note, he gives Daft a pink shirt as to make it seem like he's more feminine. You might wonder why would he do that, but knowing what groups Anton makes fun of, you'll see why later.
This is stupid for a lot of reasons. Reasons. There was a typo in my script. After all, Daft is known for having a pink shirt and a black jacket, mainly because he used to wear that in past videos. In fan art of Daft, and even in the Senior Palos animation of Storytime YouTubers, Daft has been in the same outfit. Hell, even in the thumbnail for my first video on Daft, I had him in the same outfit.
And by the way, Hopeless Peaches was the one who drew it, so go check her out.
Oh look, Peaches made myself, James, and Jaiden all white to make us look like the good guys, right? Antunes is also known for having that jacket. And it's more gray than white when you really get down to it. Did you also know that pink used to be a boy's color? Let's just say for fun that outfit wasn't something Daft was known for, and everything you said was true. Okay. I don't see why anyone should give a shit. This is such a stretch to make a point, it's laughable. Sure, Antunes may be just a less funny stone toss, but the way he was treated in his drama was simply unfair. He had to deal with dishonest pieces of shit like Creepshow Art and Prismate Luke, who are also enablers of Daft. Let's not forget, Just Stop also flagged down one of Antunes' videos for spanking him and showing his face, which was already public. Almost no one in the CC called him out for this. So why is it bad when Kai does it, but not Just Stop? Sure, Antunes is hated, but so was the guy Kai flagged. I asked Just Stop in a call about his bad point, and he said Daft was the one who told him to say it. Now, Just Stop could be lying to me. Hell, I could even be lying to you. But this does seem more like a Daft Pina point, and not a point Just Stop would make. One thing I almost forgot to mention, and I'm adding it in last minute, is another way on how Antunes was a victim of Daft Pina. You see, the whole drama started with him because of PuppyChan. You see, Daft and a whole bunch of other creators, like Prismate Luke, CreepShowArt, Izzy, Just Stop, and others, all went after Antunes, which caused his sub count to drop and PuppyChan's influence to go up. But it turns out that PuppyChan had, let's just be nice and say, a few skeletons in her closet. Now, I don't want to go into detail because this video is supposed to be focusing on Daft, not PuppyChan, but if you want more information, I would highly recommend you check out Bored Orange's video on the topic. This was during a really dark time in the commentary community where a whole bunch of big channels would side with one person and just attack the other guy. Of course, there's the Toby and Hopeless Peaches dramas. I have done more than enough videos on those topics. There was the Mari and Cal drama where Prismate Luke, Izzy, and a few other channels all gained up on Mari, who only had less than 3K subs at the time. If you want more information, check out my video, Imagine Lying About a Small YouTuber Because of a 13-Year-Old. After a very long time, people finally realized, hey, PuppyChan ain't so great of a person, and I can understand why Antunes might have had a problem with them. Several months later, Daft finally admitted that PuppyChan ain't so great in his video on BanditOf 2013.
A bad path this could take would be the case of former Twitter artist PuppyChan. They took all of that positive reaction in a terrible way, causing their art to deteriorate over time while hurting many others along the way with their success on the platform. As the more you interact online, the less time you have away from your computer and the possibility of leading a healthier life. Like how I go to the gym. It's fun, gets me outside, and touching grass, I guess. And constantly responding, liking, and posting all the time, you can get addicted to those numbers. And so if you try to pursue something that doesn't get a lot of likes, is something PuppyChan would often avoid, such as former comics, often quitting after one issue. It was hard to challenge or question the choices, as they would often react negatively, though they have since left the platform for now. Though they stated they'll be back soon enough. Though, in my opinion, them returning would be a detriment to everyone involved.
But he makes it sound like PuppyChan wasn't always this way, like they became a horrible person because of the fame. Daft, just admit you fucked up. I already went over Various Joe a lot in this video, but he's also another person who enables Daft's dishonest behavior. He was also in the video Daft did on Young Dawn, along with Wendigo, someone with almost 2 million subscribers at the time of me recording this. There's also tons of other big YouTubers who enable Daft, but if I went over all of them, this video would be about an hour longer than it already is. I'll give Daft credit for one thing, he's really good at networking. He's already around 1/4 subs, and he already has tons of big people working with him. Here's a little theory I have as to no one big other than me has called Daft out on his BS. Going up against Daft means that you might be going up against all the people who work with him. It could even get you somewhat blacklisted. Maybe they are working with him out of fear, or they think he's a good guy when he really isn't. If he's this much of a threat to other YouTubers now, what will he be like when he hits 1 million subscribers? This is why I'm done with waiting for someone else to call him out. The only way for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. I would love it if Daft just stopped doing bad things, but it's been years and he's only gotten worse. Now we will move on to Daft's victims. I'm gonna try to keep this section short because, well, I'm honestly getting bored of talking about Daft Pina. Now, I'm sure most of you already know about Daft's victims, unless you're one of those people who just skip to this section of the video. There's JaidenAnimations, who, to be fair, Daft did what he could to make amends with them. And by the way, let's just point out the elephant in the room. Jaiden, at the end of my first video on Daft, I asked you out on a date, and then you made a video saying that you were asexual. Now, Jaiden, you could have said no. Like, Jesus, I've never been rejected that hard. There's also James, who, to be fair, Daft did not try to make amends with. You want to know why Daft did that horrible video where he called James racist? Well, I don't know for sure, but I think it all started because James did not accept Daft's apology to JaidenAnimations.
I made this one video 2 years ago, actually, called Jaiden Faked Her Face Reveal. I don't know if you saw it.
I did not.
But let
see
me
it.
tell you, It was not a good video. Not a good video. But luckily, I apologized to her for that. I was like, I'm sorry for ever making that video. And you know what happened?
She told you to kill yourself.
No, she forgave me.
What?
She did. And I was like, wow.
I am
one of her friends.
I'm not
won't say
enjoying
who it
this
is.
theme of famous people actually being human with human responses. This is just blowing my mind today.
Well, here's the one thing. One of her YouTube friends, despite her forgiving me, they still hate me for ever making that video. And I won't say who it is, that'd be rude. But I'm like, okay, I guess apologies don't work, even though I fully regret ever making that video.
Daft even tries to do the whole, haha, how does it feel when it happens to you card, because he brings up how Dangle didn't accept James's apology, therefore it wasn't resolved.
Being severely vague about his racism towards the former friend, and he specifically tried to twist the story by claiming it's a private matter that was handled, which if you've seen the public post that she encouraged people to show when the apology not being accepted wasn't handled.
Just because the apology wasn't accepted doesn't mean the situation wasn't handled. And yes, she did ask people to spread it around, but she told you in private she didn't want it in your video. And not only was James a victim of Daft, but Dangle as well. Remember that clip I played earlier?
And although he left a public comment on my video, he also tried convincing me to delete it. This is keeping in mind, shortly after my video released, he deleted his entire Tumblr page that he started a long time ago, thus causing the links that once worked on the former friend's posts not work anymore. So if not for this video and the last one, would you have known these things happened?
Hey, whatever happened with the former friend after you made the video?
Oh, she threatened to sue me after a lot of people were attacking her for being racist.
Oh my.
Now don't get me wrong, I don't approve of Dangle's actions. But she told you she didn't want her post in your video, and you did it anyways. People attacked her for being racist, which, to be honest, she does deserve. But you still used her very flawed points against James, which not only got him hate, but her hate as well. James is a big guy, he can handle it, but she was just a little person, a nobody. She's definitely not used to all that hate. So James isn't happy, she's not happy, and all Daft has to say is, well, if it wasn't for my video, would you even have known that this happened? Okay, why does anyone need to know it happened? Thanks to you, Daft, Dangle regrets ever making that post. And the fact that Daft cut out the context to this post where they asked people to not put it in a sponsored video just shows his dishonesty. Daft already randomly brought up me in a video after I did my 2 videos on him, so he's more than likely gonna do it a few more times in the future. Wanna hear something interesting? I still got plenty of more info on Daft. But at this point, I'm just exhausted. Not just with Daft, but making drama content in general. I've already found way more success talking about media than drama ever gave me. And judging by how much Daft holds grudges, I probably now have a target on my back. And from what I've seen, if Daft ever talks about me, he will not be charitable. I probably didn't do enough, but I did what I could do. Anyways, I'm gonna get to work on my next big video. A full review of Season 1 of She-Hulk. God have mercy on my soul.